Hello Mzansi, welcome to another episode of Farmers Inside Track. My name is Duncan Masiwa and I'm your host for this episode, powered by Pannar. Now sorghum is stepping back into the spotlight, folks, and for good reason. In this episode, we unpack why this ancient drought-tolerant grain is becoming a modern-day hero for South African farmers, and some of the topics we'll explore in this episode include why sorghum is a smart, resilient crop for today's climate, the story behind its decline and what's driving its revival, but also tips for farmers to grow it successfully and profitably. That and, of course, so much more in this conversation. I'm joined by Reggie Mchunu, who's the key account manager at Pannar, South Africa. Reggie, welcome back to Farmers Inside Track.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be with you again.
Fantastic. We're talking sorghum, which seems to be making a comeback. What makes sorghum a smart crop choice for farmers in South Africa?
Looking at the climate change we are experiencing nowadays, sorghum becomes a game changer in that it's a crop that can withstand drought and can perform well under various conditions. So you're looking at marginal areas, your dry areas in your northwest, in Limpopo, parts of KZN and the Eastern Cape, the Free State, the Northern Cape. These are areas where sorghum would actually do well. So we're in areas where farmers are not able to plant maize, I think sorghum becomes the alternative in that it'll still give you yields. It'll still give you the money that you need as a farmer. So it is a crop that we recommend. Secondly, if you look at the health issues around the world, it is one of the crops that is recommended for various reasons in that it can be substituted for starch, but it contains a lot of dietary fiber, which is needed in our bodies. So sorghum is the alternative. And obviously for various other reasons, it is used in communal areas. It has been the source of starch for the longest of times. If you look at our history as African people, sorghum has always been part of our dietary system, including other stuff, but sorghum was the key thing. Then maize came in and replaced sorghum. That is why it died a bit and it was not used. But we are seeing people are returning to it. We are encouraging farmers to think of sorghum, to bring it in or to return it. There is a huge market for it. We get buyers who are looking for it. And unfortunately, few farmers are planting it. Thus, we are mobilizing and encouraging farmers to say sorghum is the way to go.
I mean, what's clear that sorghum is incredibly resilient, which makes sense why it's today a sought after crop or crop of choice. But I didn't know that there are different types of sorghum. Reggie, maybe take us through that. What are the different types of sorghum and how are they used?
We've got two different sorghums. We've got white sorghum and the red sorghum. But in both of those, the biggest issue with sorghum, and farmers have pulled away from it because it is prone to birds. Birds feast on it and they literally can destroy your whole crop. And our breeders have been proactive in that they've improved our varieties. We've got sorghums that we say are bird-proof, which means birds do not like them. They don't eat them that much. As a result, you get better yields and higher yields when you plant those. So that is how different. But as I say, we've got white sorghum and red sorghum. Just as in maize, where we have yellow maize and white maize. That is how we differentiate them.
Reggie, nutrition plays a critical role in public health, especially in a country like South Africa, where many households often struggle with food insecurity and malnutrition. How does sorghum compare nutritionally to other staple grains like maize or rice?
Sorghum has been Africa's starch provider for ages, and it still is in most parts of the country, of the continent. If you look at Botswana, it is still prevalent. You look at Lesotho, it is still the staple food in those areas. How it differs from maize, as I say, it is very high in dietary fiber, which is what is needed. I've got friends who are doctors. They actually are recommending diet that includes sorghum because it provides a lot of fiber, which is needed. And they recommend that mostly for the diabetics, to say sorghum could be the solution for them. So it is a crop that we are encouraging farmers that it's not just going to make money, but for food security, it plays a bigger role as well.
Why is sorghum making a comeback in South Africa's agricultural landscape?
Two things that are as a result of that. It's climate change Rainfall is unpredictable these days, and you would think we are having a good season, and drought hits us. If you recall, in the years from 2015 to about 2019, it was so dry. Maize was struggling and other crops were struggling. And sorghum played a huge role. Of the farmers that planted sorghum, they actually made their money. So we are encouraging farmers, as we spoke in other programs, to say, as farmers, we need to spread our risk. We don't just plant one crop or focus on one thing. Let us also maybe include sorghum to spread our risk, to say if the other crop fails, then sorghum is able to cover that, and we are able to survive as farmers, we are able to grow.
There seems to be a decline in the planting of sorghum in South Africa. What are the main challenges that have led to sorghum's decline in South Africa?
For me, the biggest issue has been markets. Farmers failing to access markets, then they choose to move away from that crop. It's also the prices. The maize price has been stable over the years. It's actually been good. And farmers have tended to plant maize because of market accessibility and also for the high yields that are prevalent in maize. So they shied away from sorghum. But mostly that sorghum has not been an easy crop, in that it's been affected by birds, it's been affected by many other things. So people shied away from it. But as I say, it is a crop to consider. It is a crop to bring back into the fields and for farmers to be able to get income again.
Let's talk about how it contributes to food security and nutrition. How does sorghum exactly do that?
If you look at most of the cereal foods that we eat, sorghum is still in those. It might be minute, it might not be that much, but it is there. I don't want to mention names, but our breakfast products are made of sorghum. It's just that farmers or consumers did not know that they were made of sorghum. So it is there, it is playing a role, but it is not that significant. We are encouraging farmers to say, we cannot just rely on rice, we cannot just rely on maize. Sorghum is there, health-wise, it is what we need, so we need to plant it.
Reggie, it seems like around the country there are efforts to increase the production of sorghum, one in particular being the Sorghum Cluster Initiative, the SCI. Talk to us a bit about that. What are its goals?
Basically, it's to encourage farmers to plant sorghum. It is, as I say, maize has been in South Africa for probably less than 500 years, but sorghum has been for thousands of years in the continent. It's been the staple food. It's a giant that has been forgotten, that needs awakening. So the cluster focuses on re-encouraging farmers to think of sorghum, to plant sorghum, and to provide advising farmers on production practices that they can use to produce better sorghums.
Reggie, as the young kids would say, I was today years old when I found out that Pannar has in fact been breeding sorghum since 1978.
Yes.
Talk to us a bit about how Pannar is contributing to the revival of sorghum.
Other than ARC, it's been Pannar that has been providing hybrids to the country. We've been supplying also our neighboring countries with sorghum. It's a program that has been ongoing. As I say, it's been a sleeping giant that has not been awakened. And we are in a process of saying, sorghum is there. It produces the correct yields that a farmer needs to make income. So we are reviving it. We are encouraging farmers to say, this is an alternative to maize. In the climatic conditions that we are facing, sorghum becomes the solution.
It seems like in the US and Australia, these two countries, they've seen some significant strides in increasing the consumption and production of sorghum. What lessons can South Africa learn from these two countries?
As I said earlier, people have become cognizant of what they're taking into their bodies. If you look at Australia, it's been stable in producing sorghum, the US as well. But the drive in that has been people's conscious of what they are eating and the effect our diet has. And sorghum has become a player in saying it provides better health to consumers, and it provides better health to consumers, and thus it's been revived, it's been kept going in these areas and produce. Thus, as South Africans, we are also saying, if we think of our health, if we think of the long life we want to live, sorghum becomes a solution. Sorghum can play a pivotal role in us. So we thus encourage farmers to produce it and consumers to think of it.
The benefits for agriculture is quite clear, but what broader impacts could a successful sorghum revival have on South Africa?
I think better health. Also, if you look at ethanol, that has been a buzzword for the longest of times. Sorghum is also able to produce ethanol. So, which means we can also extract fuel from it. So, producing sorghum actually then becomes not just a nutritional issue, but we can also have fuel out of it. And some farmers have started using it, including sugarcane. But sorghum also is there in producing ethanol.
Okay, so we understand now why sorghum is a smart, resilient crop. We also now better understand the story behind its decline in South Africa and also what's driving its revival. But maybe share some key tips for farmers to grow sorghum successfully.
As we said, the biggest issue with crop production is climate change, climatic conditions. The fortunate part with sorghum is it does not require lots and lots of water. It will survive in semi-arid areas. Rainfall of below 400, sorghum can be produced there. As we look at Lesotho, where they are producing it, look at the northern parts of the Northern Cape, the Northwest. These are drier areas, and it performs well under those conditions. But key to that, when we produce any crop, we need to consider our soils. Encouraging farmers, take soil samples, find out what your soil requires to give you better crops. Make sure that as a farmer, your soil fertility is kept intact. You make sure that your soil is able to provide the correct nutrients for your crop, and make sure you test your soils. So taking soil samples is key. And the third thing is how you manage your crop. Weeds are a killer and the biggest of thieves on your fields. Ensure that when you produce your sorghum, you've managed your weeds correctly, ensuring that you will get better yields at the end of the day. And obviously managing the diseases. Just as in maize, sorghum gets affected by the same type of diseases. So disease control becomes important, pest control becomes important, because it is of a grass species. Just like maize, it will be affected by the same pest. So you control them. But then it becomes cheaper to control these in sorghum as it would have in maize. So sorghum becomes cheaper. The production costs of sorghum are lower than those of maize. And obviously with a hybrid selection, select the right hybrid. These are the ones that are bird-proof, that birds would not destroy, that birds would not eat. These are the hybrids that you would look for. But over and above that, sorghum is an easy crop to produce. For a farmer, it makes it easy.
There you have it, Reggie Mchunu, Key Account Manager at Pannar. You can, of course, read this article on this episode by visiting www.fruitformzansi.co.za. And remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. From me, Duncan Masiwa, our technical producer, Megan van der Vent, and the rest of #Team Fruitformzansi, thanks for listening.